All right, well, it is 6 o'clock, so I want to welcome everybody to our Manatee Appreciation Day webinar. Thank you all for tuning in, and we are super excited to have David Schrichte with us tonight. He's a wildlife photographer and photographing manatees, and this is the first time that we have him here on a webinar, so we're really excited to have him here for Manatee Appreciation Day. Just a few housekeeping rules. We will be doing about 30 minutes of a guided Q&A with David, where we're also going to be seeing some of his beautiful photos. And then we will go into a Q&A from the audience. So you can put your questions either way in the chat or in the Q&A box, and we will be answering them at the end. You're all muted and not on camera, so you can just put everything in the chat in the Q&A. We will see that, and we will be able to direct your questions. The webinar will be recorded, and we will be posting that in the next week on our website at savethemanatee.org/webinars. I also want to introduce my coworker, Dr. Beth Brady. She's the Director of Science and Conservation with Save the Manatee Club, and she is also helping moderate the webinar tonight, and also my coworker, Alex Russell, who is the brain behind setting up the webinar, managing all of our tech issues and all that. So big thank you for Alex for being here and doing that for us tonight. So we will then go right into the webinar with David Schrichte, who is tuning in from Ohio. So David, if you just want to give a quick introduction and then let us know, how did you begin photographing manatees and why was it that you chose manatees?
Cora, Beth, Alex, I thank you for inviting me. It's a very, I'm honored to be here and happy to share any knowledge that I have to whatever extent. So yeah, I've looked at all the questions and pondered some of them to an extent. I think my interest in manatees, believe it or not, actually started back in the 70s through the Cousteau era with the Sewer Sam, when Cousteau was and his team were photographing, videoing, the Sewer Sam, what would I say? The story of Sewer Sam, and of course the transition from the into Three Sisters, and to see that advent of it, and also Blue Springs was part of that, and so my interest was sparked there. Although it really wasn't until 1975 that I went to the Citrus County Marine Science Camp, because I thought I would be a marine biologist, and saw the Crystal River in its stages then, as compared to now. But unfortunately didn't see any manatees. I know I'm being a little long-winded here, but the interest was still there. So basically, 1992 was when I was still in the Navy, and I got stationed in Orlando at the Naval Training Center and took a trip over to Crystal River and paddled out to King Spring, and those were the film days when I had a Nikonus 3 with a 15mm lens. 36 exposures was all you got, and that's it. So you better make the best of it. And I think really, it kind of kicked into high gear there, not because manatees just appealed from a sense of their gentleness. What also was a double-edged sword in that my experience from 17 years prior at King Spring in particular, and going all the way up the literally Crystal River, having seen the changes from 17 years, now 1992, dramatic changes in the water quality, I thought, I wonder how long this is going to last, because the water visibility was just what was 200 plus visibility, easily horizontally, if not longer, if not more. That's probably an understatement. Was down to probably 80 or 90 feet at most, and unfortunately, it really hasn't got much better since. But that kind of sparked my interest in them, and having gone back to where Idiot's Delight is and Three Sisters, it just kind of kicked into high gear there. I just kind of grew a fondness for them, and I seem to have a tendency to go with slower moving marine animals like sea turtles, which had the pleasure of photographing and documenting out in Hawaii when I was out Pearl Harbor out there. So, but that pretty much started in the 70s. 17 years later, while in the Navy, it just took off, and I've been pursuing it ever since.
That's amazing. So it's been a really long time. That's awesome. I know you mentioned a little bit of the equipment that you're using, but what kind of equipment do you use? And do you do above water, underwater photography, or like what kind of equipment do you use for the different kind of photography that you do?
Above water, I'm actually above and below water right now. I'm using a Sony A6500. The advantages of that, I think, are that as compared to certainly the old film days, was that hundreds of images in on one SD card, but I'm using a Sony A6500 in an iCloud housing with a large dome port. That's for underwater use, and I'm also using the same camera above water. So now that actually, the image you're seeing right now was taken probably about 15 years ago when I was using the Canon 50D in an iCloud housing. And I love that. It had a Tokina 10 to 15 millimeter lens, which was a kind of a staple. Everybody and their brother was using it back then. But absolutely excellent, super wide angle fisheye type of effect that was great for getting the above and below water images at the same time. And I also use, I've been using this probably for the last 5 years. It's I won't mention any brand name in particular, but it's a tripod. It's a mini tripod, and I have affixed that to the bottom of the camera housing. It doesn't come outfitted for that, but it seems like I always have to augment my housings to accommodate my needs. But I've been using this in particular as part of the my technique, let's call it, which we'll get into the passive observation and photography part a little bit later. So the drone, I'm using a DJI, a little bit older, DJI Mavic 2 Pro and a zoom. I always like to have a backup. And so I've been incorporating the drone imagery, both still and video, into my above water work for the last 4 years, I'd say in particular. And that has really been, well, it's a new era, basically, in the past. And anybody in fish and wildlife and others taking surveys would tell you, you'd have to charter a pilot, very, very expensive. So now get your certification and, well, hopefully, and pursue the drone photography that way. So that's pretty much the equipment. I'd like to upgrade soon, but from what I have, the wide angle lenses and a large dome port with an iCloud housing, that suits my purposes fine. I do some macro work too down in the Springs on occasion. So
I know you mainly photograph manatees, and obviously that's really what we want to focus on for Manatee Appreciation Day, but are there any other species that you photograph as well?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of times I don't even go in the water or above water with the purpose. I know it sounds silly, but some of it's weather dependent, with the idea of capturing manatees doing what they do. So it's like, be prepared for anything at any time. Expect the unexpected. So a lot of times I'll photograph cormorants, anhingas, a variety of turtles, variety of fishes, gars, especially if the gars are in their mating time of year season. That's fun. And plant life. I certainly like to see or photograph, document the eelgrass or some of the degradation to it. And that's, it's kind of sad in a certain way, because as much as you liked, any photographer really likes to capture the beauty of nature. While you're there, you want to capture kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you want the good, but seeing the invasive algae and the other degradation to the spring water quality and all that, while you're there, you document it and share it with an interested party. So yes, I definitely absolutely do photograph and video other species. It's a lot of fun, actually. So it's a little side benefit of being down there with the right equipment at the right time, and I'm always happy to share that too.
For sure. Yeah, we love to see these other photos as well. Obviously, we love the manatees, but it's always nice to see some other species as well and some of the environment that they live in. I'm kind of combining the next two questions into one. What are your favorite memories while photographing manatees, and are there specific behaviors that you like to photograph?
Yeah, the behaviors, there's really two. The one that always is well, this kind of exemplifies it in a way, although it's not, there's no nursing involved here, is a mother and calf. Anything to do with the mother and calf, the gentleness, um, I mean, this pretty much applies to just about any mother and her offspring, the connection there. That and when the younger males are cavorting with each other. Now, here's an example of the mother nursing two calves at one time. That was taken near in the canal leading up to Three Sisters a number of years ago. And these just moments are precious. And I don't believe that that's actually from the same time frame. But to capture that was not only just a joy. It really was. And again, you always kind of think, from a photographic aspect, was it composed properly? Was it in focus? All that kind of stuff. And of course, you don't know that until you get back. So, but the previous photo with the silhouette, that was one of my favorite. That was that was taken during the time when in the film days with the Nikonis camera. So it was absolute timing, knowing your timing, your technique, and your tools, having the right camera, the right lens, and the knowing how to use it came in really handy there. And just waiting. Of course, I was breath holding at the time, and but that's a mother and a calf swimming by. I went, oh man, is this ever going to happen again? Not likely. As was the other photograph with a mother nursing two calves. Is that ever going to happen again? Yeah, more than likely it will. I have video of that similar behavior, but I those are the moments, the mother and the calf, and then when the younger males are cavorting with each other, playing around, and it's like a manatee dance, really. So it's always good to just sit back and watch the show, and if you can document it, great, all the better. And these are just things I'm happy to be there to witness and share.
Awesome. Yeah, sometimes you just have to be in the right place at the right time, and sometimes these unexpected things happen that you don't really foresee. Taking photos of manatees myself, doing our research, I get that too. That sometimes you get these really great photos that you didn't anticipate, and other times you're trying so hard and just it's all blurry and doesn't look as great as you thought it would look. You Manatee Monday posts on your Facebook page. How did you come up with that idea, and what's the idea behind that?
Well, I hate to date myself, but I'll admit to the audience, I'm 66. I'm not. I'm getting a little long in the tooth. I'm glad I'm still here, but yeah, I'm not 35 anymore. But what this kind of stems back was I'm a product of the Dr. Seuss days, where everything had the rhythm of the rhyme. So I don't know, it just flowed off the tongue one day, and I said, I should start posting videos or videos and still images on Facebook. And I thought, it's a Monday, so Manatee Monday, and it just felt good. It had the flow to it, and put it out there, and it stuck ever since. And of course, some days you get a little bit long with the alliteration when you go, it's a Manatee Monday fun day. It's one day, and it's back to the Dr. Seuss influence. So, but it's been fun. Yeah, but I wouldn't say there was anything that just set off a light bulb in my head and said, oh, I wasn't laying in bed one day, Manatee Monday. It was a Monday. I posted it, and we go, what good way to Monday, Manatee Monday, and it stuck. So I'm glad, and it gets good audience reviews. So let's say.
It really does. I mean, we always share it to our Save the Manatee pages too, and I think there's people really waiting for it on Monday mornings. The first thing they're gonna look is that. So if you're not following David Schrichte on Facebook, you should definitely do that. Look out for those Manatee Mondays. Sometimes there's some fun well, I don't want to call them a contest, but like captions. You can invent your own captions for the manatee photos. I think those are always really popular. I love them. So definitely make sure to check that out. So now going to a bit of more the serious side of things, are there any research endeavors that you are helping with? And I'm going to turn that to both you and Beth Brady, because I know that you've been working on some things together. So you guys can take that question.
Yes, there are currently with Beth, and well, I say currently. I'll say seasonal for me. It's situational in that when I go down to Florida, usually pretty much in January every year, Beth has been has what did I say, lassoed? Was that say good breath? I don't know. She asked me, and I was all too happy to help. Since I have my Part 107 drone certification, Beth asked if I would take some of my time and take the drone up over congregating manatees and just basically, well, here you go. This is the Idiot's Delight. And just basically hover there. There's nobody in the shot, so pull back a little bit and just basically let the camera roll. Just record until the battery gets to the certain point where I'm no longer comfortable flying it. And so, and then I land and send the imagery to Beth, and she and her colleagues go over it. And that's what I'm doing with Beth. So Beth, you can fill in the blanks as far as the fine details, what the outcome, what the goal is with it.
So what we use these images for is to try and determine body condition of manatees or the health of manatees. So from photographs, you can take measurements of individuals, potentially determine how healthy a manatee is from this imagery. And we utilize David, one, because he has permits. He has a Part 107 license, and we have taught him, and he knows how to fly over the manatees without disturbing them. So that's one thing that's really important to us, is making sure you're doing this in a way that's not disturbing or altering the manatee's behavior. And he can be more places than we are, and that's one of the places that we know that manatees aggregate. So we really appreciate his help with this study.
Well, thank you, Beth. Filling in the blanks. In addition to that, I'm not going to necessarily say it's research, but over the past 3 weeks to a month, I've gotten a couple of requests from one's an independent filmmaker that was looking for drone footage, in particular from the Indian River Lagoon. And if anybody is familiar with some of the ongoing controversy, for lack of better definition, with the Indian River Lagoon, it was quite a few, that's an understatement, thousands of manatees that starved to death over in the Indian River Lagoon over the past couple of years and likely continue to. So this gentleman was continuing a documentary type of production, asked me if I had any footage of that. Now, believe me, I have inquired, and well, I always want to stay within regulation. You can't fly a drone over that area, not without risking going to jail, which I'm not going to do. That's off limits. No, not even out of the question. So NASA's over there and everything else, and that makes perfect sense. But I did tell him what I did have, and so he's going to incorporate that into his documentary. And then there's another lady, I won't mention any names, but not that they probably wouldn't like it if I did. She had asked if I had any footage of the Rodman Dam and the controversy going on with that, as far as to remove the dam. And I absolutely said, yes, I do, and I will be happy to donate that to you. That was for, I believe she's a college student. And so other things like that may not necessarily be research, but is in the arena of the welfare of life and habitat of our endangered manatees. So yeah, I'm always happy to help with that.
That's amazing to
Yeah,
know.
back
So, it's not just the beautiful photos that we all see or that make it into our Save the Manatee wall calendar. It's also just the bigger picture and helping with some of the conservation efforts as well. So the next question kind of ties into that a little bit. So manatees do come to these warm water sites in the wintertime to stay warm. So they congregate at these power plants or freshwater springs because those are a constant 72-degree temperature, and manatees are very cold intolerant. So they have to come to these warm water sites to stay warm and thermoregulate. So they don't come there to breed or to entertain people, but this is survival for them. They have to come to these warm water sites. So that's why we see so many of them, especially between November and March, during manatee season, congregating there. So David, how do you conduct your photography when you're in the water? And also, well, let's do that first. How do you conduct your photography when you're in the water, and what are some of the challenges that you encounter?
Well, good question, Cora, as always. A little background, I learned many years ago while stationed out in Hawaii on my first tour in 1985, that the best way, and I would say this is universal with just about any animal, above water, below water, or not, is to approach it from a passive a passive approach. You don't want to swim up close to anything, rush on, overwhelm any animal. I mean, especially manatees, they're trying to rest, they're trying to recoup, save energy conservation, stay warm, which all fills into the same arena of survival, as you mentioned. But years ago, while out in Hawaii during the early 80s, I learned that lesson early on. If you you get overzealous, you get overeager. Oh, I got to get this. I want to do, and it ends up backfiring. And not only for your goals, but inevitably the welfare of the animal. So that certainly applies to manatees. So when I'm anywhere above in a drone, in a canoe, kayak, or snorkeling, my approach is always quiet, just whisper quiet. There's some people kind of get a kick out of this because I'll say I don't regularly mention this, but there are times where I will go somewhere and I'll just sit for as long as I can. That's the advent of snorkeling. If you're using scuba, you're kind of locked into the physics of how much air consumption you have and the depth and all associated. But I mean, there's certain places I'll go and I'll see if I can even find branches, trees that have fallen in, and I'll just back in there and wait. And it's like, aren't you in a hurry to? No, I'm not. If it happens, it happens. And there have been times, a little unnerving at times where I'll look over and, 10 or 12 feet, there's an alligator sitting there and say, okay, well, he's not bothering me. And okay, we're both. So it's just all part of the show in a way, but just quiet, just don't flail, don't make noise. And I do see a lot of that, unfortunately. But that's my approach, and it really is to quite the benefit of the animal in particular. But one of the reasons I can get shots and video like I do is because I will just maintain that aura of silence. Don't make a big fuss. Don't kick up the bottom. Don't almost pretend as if you are not there. Try to, and just hang out. And sometimes I'll sit there for 45 minutes and nothing happens. Oh, well, TikTok. Did anything happen? No, and then other times it's a bonanza. So it's a waiting game. If you don't have patience, I would recommend not pursuing it. So that's my approach. Yeah. And what was the other part of what was the other part of the question?
It was a long-winded question for me, and I just wanted to also comment on the photo that we're seeing right now, which is a photo that you took above water, but you can just see kind of the sheer amount of people that are sometimes in the water with these animals, and I think it's you're photographing that, but at the same time, you're also photographing what's happening there. So you're photographing manatees, but you're also photographing the situation that's going on around it. And I think the second part of my question was, what are the challenges with photographing manatees? So I guess that may
Well,
tie into that, what are the challenges of having all these people in the same space?
that undoubtedly is a challenge, and it's becoming certainly more pervasive, I would say, over the last 15 years or so. I mean, the challenge part is kind of a two-part by my mindset, because if you have the physical aspect of the challenge, you have to get where you're going. If you're paddling someplace cold, you got to prepare for the cold. You got to make sure your equipment's ready to go. You certainly don't want equipment failure. The right wetsuit, everything, of course, a hood comes in handy for me, especially to preserve heat. So those are the kind of logistical challenges that go with it. And you don't want to be getting cold, because then it pretty much ruins everything. But the challenges of the increased number of visitors to areas where manatees are, I almost refer to Crystal River anymore, and Idiotolite and Three Sisters as the Mecca for manatees. It's got international acclaim. But there are other challenges too, in that the water quality is not nearly what it used to be, which affects water visibility. Some of the other springs that I've been to, there's at times, I don't know if it's seasonal or not, this ties in with the water quality. The invasive algae in some of the springs, Manatee Springs in particular, Alexander Springs. Now, there's no manatees in the Alexander Springs, but it still ties in with the overall quality of the water in many of Florida springs, and certainly that can affect manatees. And I have documented countless incidences of manatees just burying their faces right in just 8 inches, a foot deep of this invasive algae. So that contributes to the challenges of trying to get good imagery. But here again, that ties in with also the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's happening. So you're there, you want to document it, because it's just all part of the environment as it is today. So, and it's not everywhere. Fanning Springs was one too. I don't know if it's still that way. I didn't go to Fanning Springs last year, but I know in years past it was absolutely terrible. In fact, somebody, it doesn't matter who it was necessarily. They're probably going, it was me. Had asked me if I had any video footage of manatees, not particularly anywhere in particular, but in just being engulfed in invasive algae. So yeah, it's a challenge. It really is in certain aspects that I don't see that getting better. I hope it does. And definitely work needs to be done to correct that if possible, but that's quite a challenge for many organizations. So it never ends, does it? It seems.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I was actually just while you were speaking, looking for, I know exactly what picture you mean of the manatee stuffing its snout into the algae. I couldn't quite find it that quickly, but maybe I can later when we go to the Q&A from our audience. But my next question is, and we're going to be seeing a short video while you're talking about some of the positive and the negative things that you have seen when you are photographing manatees.
This was a good one too. I'm glad this was part of it, because some of the positive aspects that I've seen, a lot of them have been above water, in that I've seen people utilizing the both tour operators and individual boat operators, let's call it pleasure craft, utilizing the prop guards, a couple, not as many as we all would like to. I understand it's quite expensive, but that's relative too. And the pole anchors. I don't know if you've seen those, where they're kind of hydraulically, they're two poles and they go down, and there's no anchor. That is the anchor. They're poles, and they go down at very minimal, if almost some would say virtually no damage to the bottom substrate. And And the eelgrass, if there is an area where there is eelgrass, it's absolute minimal. So that's a positive. The pop guards, the pole guards, I mean the pole anchors, uh, people being more aware of the manatee zones, idling zones, manatee manners. I think a lot of I think these are all positive things. A lot of the operators, let's say, are it's a requirement now if you're going to rent a kayak, or as far as I know, man, certainly going on out a tour, you have to view the manatee manners video. What was another? The eelgrass restoration. That was am I ever disappointed and saddened, as many hundreds, if not thousands of people are, that the eelgrass that just took off probably 6, 7, 8 years ago. Unfortunately, the last 2 hurricanes, not this last year, but year before, pretty much not wiped it out. And hopefully a lot of it will come back eventually. But that was such a positive step. And so many noticed, especially me, how the water visibility cleared up. The ecosystem, you got your mollusks, some of your mollusks came back, your whole, let's call it food chain, just increased. It was such a benefit. So people wearing polarized glasses, I see that more often. And of course, the Manatee Watch volunteers in Crystal River monitoring things, that's always a positive. And I think from that standpoint, that word, at least in the Crystal River area, is getting out. Other areas, not so much. I think there needs to be some emphasis in some of the other springs, more attention put on manatee manners and the proper conducting of yourself around manatees. But around there, negative aspects, scarring, that's always a bad one. And of course, there's always going to be 1 or 2 in every crowd that either know the rules and just blatantly say, it doesn't apply to me, dive down on resting manatees, separate a mother and her calf, chase after them, everything that's on the list of not to do. There's always some of those. I think, Corey, you may have there's clearly prop speedboats, well, especially out in the intercoastal waterway, the boats going so quickly over there. This was not from there, but scarring like that, yeah. And this was captured with a drone a couple of years ago around the Crystal River area, and you can see. I don't know if these. I can really hope these 2 manatees. I think that was a mother and her on a yearling calf. It doesn't look in there that they were injured, but who's to say? I really don't know. But you can clearly see that that's a hazard, ongoing hazard. And I actually didn't see anybody up there with, trying to, on the bow of the pontoon boat, trying to keep an eye out for manatees. And this was taken a few years ago. And see here, this is the thing. Here you go. You're just there, and you see somebody do this, and the cameras, you're trying to photograph somebody comes in and goes, and of course after this you kind of wait until the action clears, and then you go, hey, that wasn't, you try to be diplomatic about it and spread the educational word about it, that's not right, that's not the way to do. But those are the negative aspects. That's some of the negative aspects of it. And starvation, the Indian River Lagoon, I keep going back to that with the eelgrass. That's just bad news. So let's hope that the eelgrass, at least in Crystal River, will come back, a resurgence of it, and certainly Indian River Lagoon.
Thank you so much for sharing that, David. Yes, I mean, we wish we would only see the positive signs, but I think it's good to photograph these, adverse things too, for people to be able to see it. I mean, I still find that video shocking, seeing that boat going over manatees, and I've seen it multiple times now, but I think it's so important to document these things. And I don't want to jump to this next question, but since we are a little short on time, a lot of the images and the video that you have been providing to Save the Manatee Club over time, we have been using them for our education outreach efforts for National Safe Boating Week campaign. So we're so grateful to have these images and these videos to show people, what's going on out there. And I think these are really eye-opening. I can show some more of those images after that, but we've been talking a lot about photographing in Crystal River, but there are some other places, I think, as well that you photograph manatees, and I do have a couple of pictures here, so maybe you want to just comment on them to let us know where they were taken, so it's not just Crystal River.
That was Blue Springs. That was Blue Springs State Park at the main spring, and this was the some of the cavorting activity, although I think and this was some mating herd behavior going on. But that was Blue Springs State Park. I also, of course, there's Tampa Electric. That's always a neat place to go. Usually when there's hundreds of them. Now there's Blue Springs State Park again. I also like to go to Fanning Springs. I like to go to, it's on the Itchitucknee River. And there is a place that I have visited only for drone use, and that is Linda Peterson Park down. It's around, and if anybody knows where Rogers Park at the end, where you take out it from the Weeki Wachee River at the end there at Rogers Park, it's just down the road from there. You can't get in the water, fortunately, but a lot of people don't know that when it gets really cold, there's a canal that leads back to a couple springs back there. And there's manatees back there. So I've taken the drone up over there. And I kind of like to, if possible, kind of search around and ask around some of the local community, people that have been there for a good deal of their lives, and they're happy to share. And of course, I always say that, this is not going to be some invasive thing on your property. So don't worry about that. It's not going to be a revelation where you're going to get a stampede of people here. But I do like to ask around. But in fact, Heart Springs, there was a manatee in Heart Springs a couple of years ago. It was really cold, and I called up the park staff and said, "You guys ever see any manatees in there?" Yeah, there's one here right now. So I took the drone up, and it was mildly successful. But Itchitucknee, Fanning Springs, Heart Springs, and Silver River. That's another place that's fantastic for manatees. So it's not always Crystal River, although that's where that's my base. That's where I launch.
That's the home base.
That's the home base, yeah.
That's the home base. All right, can you tell us a little bit about your PBS and BBC specials and what those entailed?
Well, I like the way you phrase that, because it makes it sound a little more grandiose than it really was. But I was contacted by a crew from the BBC a couple years ago, basically to act as a location consultant. So I came down. I mean, I was already there, but I came down and they asked me if I would guide them around certain areas of Crystal River to show them where I photographed this and that, and here's and here's a canal back here, to kind of set the stage to save them time and energy. The interesting, really fascinating part from a technical aspect to me was just to see how much equipment they brought. Unbelievable. They had 26, of course, this is probably not news to you, but there were 4 people, but the amount of equipment they used, and I thought this was going to be like an hour-long production, and it ended up being 5 minutes. Now, the good thing about that was not only the fun of taking them around or guiding them around, but they asked me if I had any footage of this and that and this and that, certain behaviors that they could not get in the week that they were there. So I said, yes, you'd commonly refer to as B-roll. That's the footage that's not the main focus, but it adds texture and context to what they're producing. So, and they ended up using 3 or 4 clips of mine in a production called the Wild Metropolis. And that was fantastic. So it's always, that was good. And then I got contacted by another group from the BBC, and it was the same type of thing, really. Not as the not as the guide aspect, but they asked me if I had footage to fill in the blanks. And I said I would be more than happy to do that. And that ended up being in this production, 7 Worlds, 1 Planet, actually the North American part of it. The other, it was just fun. It was fun to be there with them and see how they operate, see the equipment they use, how they make any money from it. I'll never know. I mean, you're here for a week and spending all this for 5 minutes of the actual broadcast television. But the other person I'm working with is as a contributor, another fill in the blanks behavioral type is, and you know him, Cora, Ulf Markwart, is quite a talented cinematographer, wildlife photographer. And he asked me last year if, well, we met down there, and he asked me if I would be happy to contribute. And I said, well, you twist my arm hard enough, sure. So he's putting that documentary together, which hopefully will come out soon. And so that's, yeah, I wish I could do that more often, and I'm always happy to offer. Now, I will admit that's a commercial aspect. I am compensated for that, and it's good because that helps to keep gas in the machine, oil in the crankcase, and you know, just keeps the machine running. So, but other organizations, I'm more than happy to donate the use of it, video and still images. I can Fish and Wildlife for one, Florida Springs Institute, the Florida Springs Council, Florida Power and Light, just about anybody that will ask, I am more than happy to give it, as long as it's under the criteria that it's for educational / non-commercial use. So if they're going to make some money from it, then they say, well, you know, sharing the benefit and compensate for my time and effort, which I think is quite reasonable, of course. And then Forest Service, I've donated to some of the video footage for them. So yeah, I'm always happy to do. A lot of college students and who are typically not well funded, if at all, and even grade school kids say, "Oh, Mr. Schrichte, can I use this for my school project? Tell me where to send it. Off we go." There you go. Always happy.
That's amazing. And we are so grateful for the donation of the images that you have given us for over a decade. And I just want to share 2 images to kind of wrap up the guided discussion, just for the audience to see that we have, you know, received from you and have used for our educational purposes. So what you're seeing here is a manatee kind of chewing on a rope that's being lowered from a kayak, and also the touching and getting way too close. So we have been using this for educational campaigns about why it's so bad to lower rope for manatees. It may look super cute, like they're flossing their teeth, which they really don't do. But unfortunately, these guys can get really severely entangled in these ropes. I have personally been on a rescue where we had a manatee that had entangled itself in a rope that had fallen into the water and flipper cuffed itself to the bottom of the stairs, and it couldn't come up for air. So those cutesy photos can turn bad really quick. So we're really grateful for David to document these kind of behaviors so that we can use them for educational campaigns. And same thing with this boat, with this photo here, manatee very close to the boat, and it's just extremely eye-opening photo in my opinion, just showing how they're very curious, they're very gentle, and accidents can happen so quickly. So just illustrating how we have been using those images that David so graciously provided to us. So just the last question we have for the guided discussion, and then we have about 15 minutes for some Q&As from the audience. Can you let us know if you have a place where people can view or purchase your photos?
Yes, absolutely, Cora. Should be easy to remember. It's Manatee Pics. It's Pics. I've seen with the X, not a pixel. ManateePics.com. Hundreds and hundreds of images there. Some video footage. I really need to update it though, in all honesty. I'm being in full disclosure. I've let it kind of slack for a little while, but a lot of stuff going on around here that's kind of held that up. But if you're interested, you can go on there. As the gentleman with the Jay did with the album cover, he saw it on there and said, "Dave, can I use that?" Here we go. Yep, off to the races. Happy to help. And so if you see something there, you'd be happy to or like to use for magazine publishing, posters, periodicals, anything, books, magazines. Send me a message if you want something for your personal use. I'm happy to work with you on that. And yeah, there's your connection right there. So manateepics.com.
So I also put that here in the chat. So for anybody who would like to see that, the manateepix.com link is in the chat. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Beth now for the Q&A from the audience. I do see we have a few questions in the Q&A, and I think we can kind of divvy them up between David and Beth. There's some conservation related questions as well. So I will let you take over that part.
Thanks, Gordon. Good to see you again.
All right, couple questions here. One is, did you ever go to Homosassa?
Yes. Oh, man. Yes. Many years ago. I haven't been in a long time. Back in the early 90s when I was stationed in Orlando at the Naval Training Center. That was one of the locations that I used to frequent. Yeah. Not actually, there was a time I was asked by the park staff to photograph in the mainspring, not video. I didn't even do video back then, but acquire some still images back then, and was more than happy to do that. So yes, Homosassa, absolutely, yeah.
So speaking of conservation efforts, this young lady works at a marine conservation NGO in Belize. How can we branch out internationally to spread awareness?
Oh boy. How can we branch out? Well, I think this avenue right here is your best avenue for any of it. Social media has taken off like a rocket. It's here to stay. Of course, you've got some of the AI stuff. I don't know how much that's going to play into it, except augmenting imagery to unrealistic. Well, it's maybe some unrealistic aspects of it. Well, let's hope that people try to stay real as much as possible. But your social media is pretty much it, I would say. And I really think that's the best avenue. You can try to get other organizations to dovetail with what you're doing conservation wise. And you can ask people like me, if there's video footage or still imagery that'll help promote your perspective on what you're trying to conserve. I'm always happy to do that, but I think social media it's here to stay. And fortunately, there's a yin and yang. There's always a balance with everything. So, and this is a good part of it. Yeah. So I would go with that. Social media is your avenue.
Excellent. And for David, so this is for you. Do you do speaking events to help educate people about manatees?
You're going to want a yes or no, and the answer is no. And it's not out of lack of desire. It's really more out of logistics. When I'm up here in Ohio, I got a full plate up here taking care of the house, the 9.5 acres of land and all that goes with it. It's a blessing and a curse many times. And when I'm down in Florida, my time constraints are pretty narrowly focused. I almost have tunnel vision, really. And it's surprised. I'm down there for 2-3 weeks, sometimes a month. And by the time it's over, by the 30 days or 21, 30 days, it just passes at light speed anymore, it seems like. And so unfortunately, I do hate to say, as much as I would like to, I would have to say I don't at this moment in time.
Except for today.
Except for today, yes.
Except for today.
Yeah.
Another question is, how are the conservation efforts progressing? What else can we do? And I think you might have touched upon that, but is there anything else you recommend as a photographer, I think that can be helpful for conservation efforts that you believe might be helpful?
Yeah, well, undoubtedly there is. And one of them is, I think if you have images, whether they be still images or video, offer it to organizations like the Save the Manatee Club, I mean, they just well, we've had such a wonderful relationship with them since 1992, and ongoing. Contribute. There's fine organizations that are in your bailiwick, your avenue of interest. If it happens to be manatees, certainly Save the Manatee Club, undoubtedly. And if not, there's other organizations, the Florida Springs Institute, Florida Springs Council, which I also donate to them on a regular basis. And a lot of times they'll ask me, or I'll even show stuff, say, just present it to them. Can you use this? Oh, yeah, absolutely. So if you have, if that is your specialty, let's say your avenue of interest, documenting it, you can, or your own Facebook page, your own website, and it kind of dovetails with the social media aspect again. Instagram, other things of that nature, and go from that direction. Really, I think that's the direction. Point your arrow in that direction, and when the other aspect of it too is, I know I'm getting long-winded here, is when you contribute, when you donate to organizations, word gets out. I mean, who's the guy that sent you that? Who's the lady that sent you that? And then they'll relay that information to you, back to you. So, and then it can spread that way. So it's a multi-level benefit to everybody, the organization you're donating to, plus in a roundabout way, it may come back to you and somebody say, hey, while you're down there, can you do this and do that? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, but I think it's fantastic. The conservation we're getting such a concentrated effort on it because we're seeing global warming, climate change. That's climate change now, not global either way. Water pollution, air pollution, and through our computer access, our cell phones, which anymore I just refer to as a pocket computer, where access to it anymore is literally at your fingertips. So to get involved and help spread the word or be the initiator is probably easier than ever.
I have to 100% agree. I think photographers like you help us tell the stories that need to be told to help protect these animals or any species for that matter. I think we have another great question here for David. Do you have any manatees you enjoy to photograph or any that pose for the camera?
I wouldn't say they necessarily, yeah, I mean, yes would be the answer. Are you looking for a yes or no? And I wouldn't necessarily call it posing. That implies intent. But there have been times when I'll be someplace and I'll just, again, quiet, just sitting there waiting, just, I don't know. And it's usually a younger manatee will see me there and just turn at 30, 40, 50 feet away and just turn and head right towards me. Why? I really don't know. Maybe natural curiosity. Do I look like a manatee? I don't know. I mean, some would say yes, others would say no. And when that happens, I'll here we go, push record and let it happen. And instances like that are great joy. And then oftentimes I have a lot of footage of that. But a young, curious manatee will come in, get about this far from the camera, kind of snoop it out, check it, what's he doing over there, and then turn around and leave. So stuff like that. Yeah. Not opposing, but a kind of a serendipitous spur of the moment thing. And I just let the camera roll and try to share it if I can.
Excellent. So I think this might be one of our final questions. Best tips for those interested in wildlife photography, photo editing as a career. Do you have any advice for those?
Yes. Well, first of all, get to know your equipment. That's first and foremost. I like to use the word, the 3 T's, the timing, tools, timing, and technique. And the technique is first. You have to know how to use the basics of your camera. I know a lot of cameras nowadays, there's so many bells and whistles on them. You think you can just buy it and it's going to do it for you. No, you got to learn the basics, as with just about anything. Once you've done that and become comfortable with the equipment, get out as much as you can. I think if anything that I learned early on, especially with the film days, and that's a good basis of reference, because when you investigate, when you research some of the National G teams that went out there, photographers that went on assignment, and you find out how much film they shot, 400-500 rolls of film, 36 exposure. I mean, we're talking thousands of images, quite expensive, time consuming. And then you see the finished product in the feature, 6, 7, 10 images. It's like, oh my goodness, they took that many images and this, only that many were used. Now, does that mean those were the best images? Well, somebody decided that, the editor of the layout and the editing of the magazine, yes. But more than likely, they had thousands of great images. Editing, the other thing I learned from a Hawaii photographer out in Hawaii, his name was William Waterfall. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He said, Dave, ruthless editing, ruthless. Nobody wants to throw, you take 10 great shots and you think, oh, they're all 10 great. No, they're not, really. I mean, you really have to be ruthless and go through them again and again and again. Anymore, it's so easy to do digitally, Photoshop, and video-wise, I use Final Cut Pro. I'm starting to learn DaVinci, but yeah, just be ruthless, because it'll save you. It's a little frustrating because you go, oh, that's good stuff, I'll keep that, but so the other aspect of it, and I'll try to be as short as I know I haven't been really, is it's a tough business. It really is. It takes a long time to get in it. There's so many people involved with it, and a lot of them are really, really talented. That's just amazing. The quality of underwater imagery that I've seen over the past 20 years is just phenomenal. The lens quality, everything. And of course, a lot of that you can manipulate in the Photoshop and likewise. But it's phenomenal, the quality. If you don't believe that, which I'm sure you do, just pick up a National Geographic from 40 years ago and you go, oh, whoa, man, that was top notch back then. Now, hate to say it in a way, wouldn't even be given a second look because the quality is so much better. So if you want to pursue it from a career and a money-making aspect, just realize that you are in competition with that caliber of other photographers, and they're out there all over the internet. So yeah, it's and have a passion for it, love what you do. And there you go.
Excellent.
I think that was a wonderful wrap up, David.
Yeah.
And just to add to what you were just saying, back in the day, you really had to have the equipment and the knowledge on how to use that equipment when you were, doing great photos. And I mean, I went to school for that too, for photography and design and filmmaking. And it's just insane to see right now how kids go out there with their cell phones, and the quality of these cell phone images is amazing. And they take these pictures and you just stare at them and you think, well, why did I go to school for that? But at the same time, I think still having that knowledge on how to compose a photograph, how to use that equipment, like you were saying, learn your equipment, understand your equipment, how to use that, and how to tell a story with these photos, I think is so important. And that's what will set you apart from everybody who has their iPhone out there, taking pictures. It's very competitive, but I think there's still that skill that the real photographers have versus everyone who can just really go out there and take pictures with their phones or their GoPros or whatever we use, me included.
Right, you are, Cora. Absolutely. Yeah. And pursue it from the aspect of, well, I was told this again many years in music. Do what you love. And some would say with anything, well, it's a subjective field, art, acting, music. Do it because you enjoy it. I heard somebody say, I was in a book years ago, I think it was Life 101, or maybe it was the actual book was do what you love and the money will follow. Not tomorrow, maybe not 10 years from now. It will eventually follow, but stick with it, pursue your craft. And with social media, you can get it out there faster and with such a wider audience than ever before. So now's the time, but love what you do. That's the foundation of it. That's the base of the pyramid.
Well, thank you so much, David. It's been a pleasure. No, I was going to say it's a pleasure having you this evening. So thank you for agreeing to do this webinar for tonight. And I'll let Cora finish up, but I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate you.
That's my pleasure, and I hope to see you again next January. Likewise, Cora. Cora and I haven't crossed paths in many years. Unfortunately, it's all logistics and timing. But next year, yes.
All logistics and timing, like you were saying, you come down here for 3 or 4 weeks and time flies like crazy. So just sharing this image here as a kind of a Manatee Appreciation Day photo. We're super grateful again, David, to have you on tonight. Also really grateful for our audience. If you have any other questions, you can always email us or contact us on social media. I also put David's Facebook in the chat so you can follow those Manatee Mondays. And I hope everybody has a great Manatee Appreciation Day. And again, David, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Alex and Beth, for moderating and setting all of this up. This was very successful. So thank you very much and hope everybody has a good night.
Thank you, Cora. Let me know if you want to do it again sometime.
Sounds good.